state of Pride. Back for the second BL OVA review of Pride. This one actually has more than one episode this week. It also has a title that is rather precarious. I don't know how I'm gonna say this series on YouTube. In case this video gets demonetized, make sure to donate to my Patreon or become a channel member. So we're gonna go with BNSH or Boku no which is hopefully fine. Now, I have known about BNSH for years at this point, but I probably would say that I know next to nothing about the story, other than there's corn. And when I say corn, I mean like real literal corn and not like the cringy TikTok self-censorship. See you after the first episode. Oh man. Where do I even begin? Oh my god. So we have Mochizuki, who's like a salaryman who's like newish at the company. He has his manager, Honma-san, who has like the most like erratic voice. I swear I've ever like intentionally erratic voice I've ever heard. And like he looks up to him, but then every time he's around him, he's blushing and and then Honma makes a move on him. So they start to enter into a relationship, and there's all this discussion about like, oh, you gotta do what you gotta do in the corporate world, which, you know, is not divorced from reality. There's this whole thing with this other president and some other company who will buy their computers. They work at a computer company. Honma is like, oh, well, the president wants to sleep with you. That's how you get ahead in the world. And Mochizuki's like, Mochizuki ultimately makes the decision to sleep with the president of the other company, because if he sleeps with the president of the other company, it will help their company make a deal. Mochizuki goes to his hotel or whatever. Dude, you're getting it down! Fujita, who is like a younger person at the company who like is also clearly has a crush on Mochizuki. And so there's like a love triangle going on between Fujita, Honma, and Mochizuki. Fujita shows up to pick up Mochizuki and take him to the tennis trip, confesses to Mochizuki, but then Honma calls and is like, well, I need to see you tomorrow. And so Fujita storms out and drives away back to the tennis trip or whatever. Ultimately, so far, very positive feelings. I miss this. With BL, especially, again, as I've talked about for years at this point, with how like chaste like most BL options have been in recent years, like I am very much more preferential of like getting to the shit. You know what I mean? I'm only one episode in, dying to see where this goes. The contrast of the opening, absolutely hysterical. We have Mochizuki running around in the in the booties, transitions, and there's like an more ominous song that says, my the creative just mwah. I love plus just like the campiness and like the goofiness and just like the absurdity, the melodrama in this. Honma is talking to Mochizuki and like the business office or whatever, and he's like, the president wants to sleep with you, and he's like, yes, give me more of this shit. I miss this shit. I miss Hashtag make yaoi fun again. Like literally, because like, oh my god, like I just think about like everything we've gotten in the past most of what we've gotten in the past few years. And I think about like, oh, I'm a nerd, and like he's a sporty or a cool guy, and like, oh, I like him, and oh, my feelings, and who gives a fuck about your feelings? And even like getting like Tadaima Okai is like, oh, we're a domestic family, but it's so big of it's like, yo. Boku no where, you know, this shit both simultaneously is giving me everything and making me so mad at the same time. The I'm not gay, me neither, a vibe. A vibe. Fat ass mood. All of a sudden he comes out of the shower and like Honma's there and he's like, how did you get in here? Like literally my first question. Oh my god. I will say, even though like the old president is framed as like a bad guy in a sense, I don't know, he was kind of attractive. I can't lie. And the way he was just like looking at Mochizuki the whole time was killing me. Like, could not be more obvious. Fujita is super fine. Probably the character I'm most attracted to so far. Although his personality is like he needs to like find his balls. Honestly, the three main characters are all really hot, to be honest. 4 if we're including the president. Like all the characters are like really hot to me, which is like very nice and refreshing. I did not feel this was fake. I have not felt this with many BL I've read or watched, maybe not read, but watched recently. Like Tasogare, I wasn't really attracted to anybody. The one character I was attracted to was like the one character like not in a relationship. But let's not. There's this one woman, I don't remember her name, has a thing for Mochizuki, and they're like, oh no, Mochizuki is gay with Fujita, which is hilarious because like Mochizuki is like not with Fujita. The woman is like, oh, Mochizuki's straight or whatever. And the other women actually give like a compassionate, like open-minded, like, oh, well, it doesn't matter if he's straight or not. Like letting people love who they want is like, long as love is pure, like let people love who they want to love and like some like that. And I was like, oh, this is nice. The one thing that I find interesting, and this is topical into like a broader concept that like stems into today, is that the word they use for straight in this, it's translated as straight with the subtitles, but the word used is normal, framing like straight relationships as normal, again, frames like queer relationships as not. So obviously like there's a level of like homophobia in the language. Again, this is from the 90s, and like this is something that does stem into today, because there is a subcategory of, I think it's mostly used for doujinshi. I don't know that it's necessarily used for manga, and I don't know the official capacity or not of it. And I only recently learned about this a few months ago, is that NL is a thing. NL meaning normal love, intended to be a term to contrast with BL and GL and TL. I guess it would obviously contrast with TL too. Because TL is a thing. Obviously, plenty of people in the BL community and GL community and etc. have issues with that, because it frames anything as not straight as being not normal. And so it's interesting that to see that used also in this 90s context. So it kind of just like connected those two things to me mentally. Shout out to the other woman for being like, no, love is love. It doesn't matter if it's normal or not. And it's like, let's go. An ally in Boku no BNSH! Everyone at this company all went to the same goddamn college. Mochizuki, Honma, Fujita, the other president. Why? It's a pipeline. Y'all might as well work in admissions. Which is like, I like you. And then it's like, ding! It's like all of a sudden emotional aspect. Like, I am living. And I'm so glad there's 2 more episodes. Because I'm actually absolutely thriving with this shit. I will say episode 2 is overall much less enjoyable than episode 1. To summarize, apparently been a 5-year time skip, except like right after saying it's a 5-year time skip, Mochizuki is like, oh, so 3 years ago. So it's really just like actually like a 2-year time skip. The vice president of the president that Mochizuki had to sleep with apparently saw them going into the hotel together. So then Mochizuki is told by Honma that he has to go the vice president Sawamura. That's the whole thing that happens first. Get that out the way. A time period after that, Mochizuki ends up going to f***ing Boston. I don't know why. So then he gets involved with this guy named Joe from MIT, which is already red f***ing flags. Joe drugs Mochizuki when he comes to his place, films himself f***ing Mochizuki tied up, but like cuts his head out and then like threatens to blackmail Mochizuki. And so that's a whole thing. And Honma also left his wife and kids to go to Boston too. But he's like, oh, I have to go back to Japan for a month or something. And so he leaves like at the start of the Boston arc. That's when Joe enters the picture, and then enters Mochizuki against his will. And then they enter into like a coercive relationship based on blackmail and whatnot. It turns out Honma actually was investigating Joe because Joe was trying to go to the Buick Corp. Is Buick even in business anymore? But Joe was trying to go work for Buick or some shit. I was like surprised they could even name drop Buick. But anyway, Mochizuki drugs Joe, and then Honma shows up and they tie him up. And this is where the corn scene comes in. And then that's how that ends with like Mochizuki being like, I love Honma, but like he scares me sometimes. But anyway, I will say that, again, that I enjoy this much less. Joe was like unattractive, and that's like even before we get to like all the actual things he's doing with Mochizuki. And then Joe was like a head and a blackmailer doing revenge and shit. And then on top of that, he was wearing like one of those like 80s like man bra unit situations. Like I never liked that look. So that Joe was like dead from jump. But this is just overall less enjoyable because there wasn't really any scenes that I enjoyed as opposed to in episode 1. No attractive men. Poor Mochizuki this entire episode. But I'm still having a lot of fun. This is also a lot less melodramatic. This is a lot more sad, I guess, compared to the first. And the first episode was like hysterical, again, plot. This like actually had like a functioning like sad blackmail plot, which I didn't enjoy as much. So I'm very intrigued to see how the third episode comes about. They keep having these flashbacks with like Mochizuki's, I guess, childhood in the countryside. And there was like this whole thing about him throwing like a jar with a cicada in it from in the beginning. I'm like, is that supposed to be a metaphor? I don't know what that metaphor means, but okay. I was like Team Fujita in like the first episode, but like the Fujita subplot is kind of a boner killer. But it just is like, oh, I like you and I'll wait for you, like gag. F***ing gag. You're so hot and so wasted. If they don't by the end of the third episode, I'm gonna be so pissed. And if they end up together, I'd be happy for it, especially with everything that Mochizuki is going for. Because I f with, like, the energy of Mochizuki and Hanma, because it's, like, forbidden love, like, you're married with kids, and, like, we're sleeping around at work, and, like, you kind of care for me, but you're kind of a dickhead, and, like, and I'm Mochizuki, like, I do enjoy that dynamic of it, but I don't know that I would like Mochizuki and Fujita more. Like, I need something added in there to give me what I need it to give. Not showing any visible, like, there is happening, there's going on, there's, like, and whatnot. Basically, I just want to know if there is visible in, whether pixelated, whited out, or whatever, in straight of the same time period, to see if there was, like, a bias against BL having that. There was a VHS in this, nostalgic. Very, I actually have a VHS, 2 VHSs, right here. Shout out card captors. When Honma does appear, he, like, comes out of, like, sliding doors. That shit was f***ing iconic. And then we finally get to the corn scene, which I will say, I'm fairly disappointed by. I don't understand. I mean, I can understand, but I don't understand why the corn scene is such a big deal. Like, I've heard for years, like, there's corn, and I knew the corn in some way, shape, or form goes in the ass, but, like, that's literally about it. Like, I don't see why this is that big of a deal, other than, like, people being like, oh my god, it's crazy yaoi. I would have thought, if you're trying to get revenge on this guy, you take the glass bottle, put it in his ass, and then hope that the pressure makes it break. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would be my approach. I would never do that. But that would, if I was in the scenario, and, like, that was where the brain was going, then that would be my approach. Like, that would be much more like, oh, like, there's a glass bottle. Like, have people not seen, like, what is it, One Man, One Jar? That was, like, a video of, like, the 2 girls, 1 cup era of the internet. This is, like, very vanilla in the grand scheme of things. And I don't even consider myself to be, like, that or, like, into that much, like, out there things in, but, like, this just seems like, so, like, okay, he used corn, like, okay, he used a baseball bat, like, okay, he used a ruler, like, I don't, okay. Again, the glass bottle to me seems like a bigger deal. But anyway. Oh, and then Honma, like, wanting to be like, I want the tapes of Mochizuki. It's like, he wants that shit for himself. Fucking Honma in his ass voice. But let's get into episode 3. Okay, finish the 3rd episode. And we'll get to my score as we go. Apparently, Fujita got in contact with Mochizuki and they had plans to go to Hawaii. But then this guy named William Rogers is coming to town. Honma set Mochizuki up to be with William Rogers, Bill as they call him. First he goes and confronts Honma about it, and then Honma and him have sex with Emily, the secretary, in the next room. Mochizuki meets with Bill, and then him and Bill have sex. And then he meets with Fujita, who comes to Boston, and then reveals everything to Fujita. And then it ends with him closing the curtains after kissing Fujita. So I don't know if he Fujita or not, which is like a huge disappointment to me personally, but I digress. The whole flashback thing, I don't know what, I mean, I know what generally the metaphor, I guess, is. Actually, I don't know what the metaphor is for. The metaphor chronologically went, Mochizuki running around has a jar with a cicada in it. He goes into town and then he goes and throws the cicada jar into the water. Then he finds the older man while he's on a bridge, and then is sleeping with the older man who feels cold. Whatever that means. Him and the older man are like hanging out as he's looking for the jar that he threw into the water. Finds the jar, but after he finds the jar, the older man disappears, and then it ends with the jar in the boat. And I don't know what the f any of that is supposed to mean. I guess it's like, okay, you were existing, and so you like you cast out your, I guess the cicada is his morals or some shit. And so he cast that out in order to get ahead with the work, but in doing so, gained Honma by way of losing his morals. Or whatever, and then being with Honma and realizing he loves Honma, he decides to go look for his morals again because he loves Honma, but also engaging with Honma more and realizing that Honma will still cast him out for other men, which we will also talk about, means that he's gained his morals back, but in gaining his morals back, he realizes that he can't have Honma, so then he just leaves his morals in the boat to survive while I guess he drowns with Honma. I guess that's what it's supposed to be. Honma says, I love you. I was like, I don't believe that man for a second. He's just saying shit. And Mochizuki kind of feels that way by the end of the story anyway. So then William Rogers enters the picture, and I'm just like, please let this man be nice to Mochizuki. Even if he's also using him as a whole. And at least that happened. He was nice to him, so I liked William out of all the non-Honma, non-Fujita people who have sex with Mochizuki. Bill is probably in the better half. Probably at the top of the list, honestly. Honma's like, well, I guess I'll go have sex with Bill. That ain't f***ing happening. talk about leading a man on. And Mochi's like, no, I wouldn't want you to have sex with him. And Honma is basically like, you wouldn't want me to be with other men, but I would probably keep sending you to other men. And then in the end, Mochizuki still says he loves him. So I mean, it's the nature of the relationship. Who am I to judge? I was like, okay, at least at the end, let Fujita and like, there's the implication that maybe they have sex behind the curtain as the credits roll, but we didn't see it, so doesn't matter. So that definitely took points off. Overall, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. That first episode was beautiful. I loved that first episode. That second episode was not great. Third episode was better. I would say the second and the third episode are about the same, simply because the second episode I just didn't enjoy, and it was like very much like not enjoyable for me personally. And the third episode was just kind of like boring. Like I was really bored. After watching the first episode, I knew it was going to be at least an 8 because I was like, in theory, if like it kept doing what it was doing, or if it like went beyond what it was already doing in terms of how it made me enjoy it, I would have given it at least a 9 or a 10. But the fact that it didn't, like the first episode is the peak, and then the next 2 episodes I didn't enjoy as much, I would say it remains at that 8 based off of that first episode alone, essentially. This is continuing off of Fake of like missing this energy, at least in the first episode. Then it got like, I don't know, deep and emotional and somber. And I'm like, what is this given? And I still have 3 to go for the rest of the month. And we will see how the they go. And after, let me just say, even after this one, some of the remaining ones are still quite the choices. That's all I'll say. Next week, I actually don't really know that much about what it is. All I will say is, I don't even know what to say, because it's probably out of the 5 of them that I have chosen the one that I know the literal least about. Other than then, I guess I'll say it's a military setting, which is a few of them, I hope. Otherwise, that basically gave it away. So that's basically Boku no who here has been blessed by the corn before? The very functionally disappointing corn, quite honestly. As always, you can shuck your monetary corn at any of the petitions or any of the organizations linked in the pinned comment. And as we stalk into the second week of Pride, I'm gonna try to shove in as many corn references as I can before this is over. Tomorrow, for day 9, we will finally address my people of the pink, purple, and blue. Bye! Literally.